Transgender Day of Remembrance. 2021 is set to be the deadliest year for trans and gender diverse people since we began collecting data. With 375 registered murders between 1st of October 2020 and 30 September 2021. This represents a 7% increase from the 2020 update, which was already a 6% increase from the 2019 update. Brazil remains the country that reported the majority of the murders, 125, followed by Mexico, 65, and the United States, 53. The data shows that a total of 4,042 trans and gender diverse people reported being murdered between 1st of January 2008 and 30th of September 2021. Transgender Day of Remembrance 2021 data shows that 375 trans and gender diverse people were murdered, 7% more than in the TMM Update 2020. Cases from Greece, Kazakhstan, and Malawi were reported for the first time. 96% of those murdered globally were trans women or transfeminine people. 58% of murdered trans people whose occupation is known were sex workers. Murders of trans people in the United States have doubled from last year. People of color make up 89% of the 53 trans people murdered. 43% of the trans people murdered in Europe were migrants. 70% of all the murders registered happened in the Central and South America, 33% in Brazil. 36% of the murders took place on the street and 24% in their own residence. The average age of those murdered is 30 years old, the youngest being 13 years old and the oldest 68 years old. Data indicate a worrying trend when it comes to the intersections of misogyny, racism, xenophobia, and hate towards sex workers, with the majority of victims being Black and migrant trans women of color and trans sex workers. These numbers are just a small glimpse of the reality on the ground. The majority of the data was collected from the countries with an established network of trans and LGBTIQ organizations that conduct the monitoring. In most countries, data is not systematically collected. Most cases continue to go unreported, and when reported, receive very little attention. Transgender Day of Remembrance was started in 1999 by transgender advocate Gwendolyn Ann Smith as a vigil to honor the memory of Rita Hester, a Black transgender woman who was killed in 1998. The vigil commemorated all the transgender people lost to violence since Rita Hester's death, and began an important tradition that has become the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance. Transgender Day of Remembrance seeks to highlight the losses we face due to anti-transgender bigotry and violence. I am no stranger to the need to fight for our rights, and the right to simplify exist is first and foremost. With so many seeking to erase transgender people, sometimes in the most brutal ways possible, it is vitally important that those we lose are remembered and that we continue to fight for justice.